Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my top 10 book boyfriends. Alright guys, so I've been seeing a lot of my friends doing this video recently, specifically Hannah Blackwell, Tori from Novel Life, and then McKay from Oh Hey It's McKay. So I wanted to put my own spin on it. So in this video, I will be sharing my top 10 favorite book boyfriends from both fantasy romance and contemporary romance books. I try to make it an even split between fantasy romance and contemporary / dark romance. So I will give you a spoiler-free plot synopsis of every book they are featured in, and then why they are my absolute favorite book boyfriend. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about my top book boyfriends. And I forgot to mention, as much as it pained me to do this, this list is ranked. So I'm going to be starting off with number 10 and working my way up to my number 1 ultimate book boyfriend. But coming in at number 10, we have Stay With Me by Nicole Fiorina. If you have not read this series, it is one of my all-time favorite contemporary romances. It is emotional, the humor is amazing, and oh my gosh, the main guy in this I am obsessed with. So at number 10, we have Ollie Masters. Now, if you have never read this, we are following Mia, and at the start, she is a 19-year-old girl that is dealing with a lot mentally. She just feels very cut off from the world, and she really doesn't feel anything, and that is causing her to act out at home. So her father ends up sending her to a reformatory college, which she immediately wants nothing to do with, and she is just trying to keep her head down, get by so she can graduate and get her freedom, because that is really all she wants. Now, when she gets there, she ends up meeting Ollie Masters. Now, Ollie is the exact opposite of Mia. He feels emotions too deeply, and he has these piercing green eyes. He writes poetry, and he immediately is just completely consumed and captivated by Mia, and he completely dotes on her. He just wants to help her feel happy and get out of her shell and really enjoy life. And Mia soon starts to realize that Ollie Masters is either going to be her salvation or her damnation, and it's their romance. Once again, I love Ollie Masters. He is the epitome of a cinnamon roll character, specifically in this first book. Now, he does change a lot throughout the series, which is part of the reason why I love this series. It is so heartbreaking and just emotional watching these characters grapple with everything that they have to go through, and definitely check trigger warnings. There are some very upsetting events that do take place, and it deals with a lot. I will also say the series is slightly unhinged. Don't take it too seriously. There's a lot that goes down, but overall, I love Ollie, and just once again, the way he just treated and really took care of Mia and just absolutely loved her. And his passion, I love him so much. So that is why Ollie Masters is my number 10 favorite book boyfriend. And number 9 is featured in Throne of Glass. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Throne of Glass, it is a young adult / new adult series by Sarah J. Maas. I absolutely love this series. Depending on the day, it's my favorite series by Sarah J. Maas. It always alternates between that and A Court of Thorns and Roses. But oh my gosh, it is so amazing. And there are so many different book boyfriends to choose from. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this series, there is a lot to cover, but this first book is following Celaena Sardothien, who was once one of the most feared assassins and is now being held in a prison. And she ends up being offered a deal. She can fight in this king's competition, and if she becomes the winner, she will become the king's champion and gain her freedom. Now, she agrees, but as she is fighting against these thieves and all of these other dangerous people, she notices that some of her competitors are slowly going missing, and there seems to be a dark magic that is at play, so she has to discover all of the secrets, and she kind of makes friends along the way. And overall, this is one of the best series I've ever read. I know a lot of people like to hate on it, and the first 2 books do feel very young adult, but oh my gosh, it becomes so epic and amazing, and the characters and the romances, it's so good. That being said, it was really difficult for me to pick my top book boyfriend in this series. At first, I was thinking about one that was starting with an R, however, not my favorite. There's also one that starts with an L, but we don't really get enough of him for him to be my absolute which leaves us to Dorian Havillard. I love him. I love him so, so much. He has so much swagger and confidence. Even when things are like not going his way, it does not affect him at all. And I love the relationship he has, and I really hope we get more of it in the future when SJM starts releasing more stuff, because I love him. I love his romance. I love everything about him. So definitely Dorian. He also has a certain phrase that he calls a certain someone that anytime I read that in this, I'm like kicking my feet. So overall, Dorian at number 9. And number 8 might be slightly controversial. I realize it's been a while since I've talked about one of my favorite forbidden and age gap romance series, Off Balance by Lucia Franco. Now, this series might not be for everyone. There is a decent age gap. Also, it plays around with student teacher / coach teacher. So not for everyone. But personally, for me, I love this series. Oh my gosh. This was one of, I think, the first, maybe second or third age gap I read. But I was completely hooked. I remember the last book in this series released while I was on vacation, and my family didn't see me like for a solid 2 days. I could not stop listening to the audiobook for this, and most of that was because of Kova. So Kova is the hero in this series. Oh my word. I love Kova. I also hated Kova so much, and that is part of the reason why he is number 8, because I had an emotional journey with this man through this series. So if you're unfamiliar with this series, we are following Rhea, and her entire dream growing up has been to make it to the Olympics. That is her one goal in life. Now, her father has a friend who is a 2-time Olympian named Kova, who actually has a gym across the country. So he sends his, I believe she's 16 at the time, 16 or 17-year-old daughter to Kova to train, and it's Kova and Rhea's romance. Now, once again, student teacher, forbidden, might not be for everyone, but I loved their romance, and I despised Kova for probably 4 out of the 6 books. And somehow, despite that, he was able to make me completely fall in love with him by the end of the book. Both characters do some very, very messy things, and they are both very flawed individuals. So watching them make these mistakes, but still be able to root for them by the end, I loved their romance. So check trigger warnings. Overall, it's one of my favorite series, and I'm definitely going to be doing a reread soon. And coming in at number 7, we have North from the Bonds That Tie series by Bree. If you're unfamiliar with the Bonds That Tie, it is a Why Choose fantasy romance series following Ollie. So Ollie lives in a world where there are bonded, which are like bonded family units. You find multiple partners, and then you're able to power each other up. So after a car crash leaves Ollie orphan, instead of going to her future bonded mates, Ollie decides to go on the run, thinking they are better off without her. So she ends up running away and is found after 5 years and is brought back and now has to face the 5 bonded men that she abandoned, who are very obviously upset that she left them. So the first book is very much a bully romance, but as it progresses, it becomes this very epic battle, and it's very, very enjoyable. I absolutely love it. It is one of my favorite Why Choose series. Now, this is another one where I kind of changed who my favorite bonded guys are. Now, my favorite for a long time was Nox, who is North's brother. They both are able to control shadows, and I just absolutely love a shadow daddy, so no surprise there. But Nox was the more, I don't want to say damaged, but he definitely was dealing with a lot in terms of his upbringing and just how he really relates to the world. And then North was very dominant. He just needed to take care of Ollie, and that was more his personality. And recently, I've been kind of going towards that. So I am going to pick North today. Any other day, it could change. I also like Atlas occasionally. He's more of like the really big protector, cinnamon roll character. I love them all. But for this video in particular, we are going to go with North, just because I love that he is a caretaker. He will do anything to protect his family and his loved ones, and he's just very much like the father of the group, and I really, really love him. He also wears leather, and he's like super controlling and like an alpha, so all about that. So North is another one of my favorite book boyfriends. And at number 6, we have Joey Lynch from the Boys of Tommen series. Now, if you've never read Saving and Redeeming 6, which are books 3 and 4, they follow Joey Lynch, and at the age of 12, his older brother abandons the family, leaving poor 12-year-old Joey to be the protector for his siblings and really hold his family together. His father is both physically and mentally abusive, and his mother is very subservient towards his father and also very cruel to Joey. So Joey really has no one, and on top of the struggles of taking care of his family, he's also dealing with substance abuse issues, and really the only light in his life is his boss's daughter, who also happens to be his classmate, and it's their romance, and oh my gosh, Joey needs to be protected at all costs. He is one of my top book boyfriends of all time, but I don't know where to really put him in this list, because while like some of the book boyfriends, I'm like, oh my gosh, so cute, Joey needs to be with Aoife. I also love Aoife with all of my heart, and I love the way she is able to really just help Joey. She is one of the only people in this book that truly gives him a place to land and a place to just break down, and I love them so, so much. But Joey in particular, he would probably not be the best boyfriend, and he really does put Aoife through it so, so much because of everything that he is going through and dealing with, and how he doesn't really want to open up. And I love Joey, and he tries his best no matter what, but he does have his demons, and by the end of this series, it's so beautiful to watch. If you have not read the Boys of Tommen series, if you can't tell by me completely just gushing over it, it is so, so amazing. And it was a series that I really put off reading for so long because it is considered YA, and I just didn't know how much I would really enjoy about reading about characters that are in high school also going through some very upsetting issues, but wow, so, so amazing. So please do yourself a favor, read the Boys of Tommen series, and I love Joey so, so much. And I'm sure to no one's surprise, I had to include Nikolai Sokolov from God of Fury, which is book 5 in the Legacy of the Gods series by Rina Kent. If you're familiar with my channel, I have not been able to stop talking about this series. It is my new dark romance obsession. I read all of these books within about a week. I listened to every single audio. They are phenomenal, and Nikolai is by far my favorite. Nikolai and Brandon, I love them. I love them. I love them so much. Their story, their romance, just the way they heal each other, I can't get enough. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this story, we are following 2 different rival colleges, so Elite U and King's U, and we're following 2 different classmates from those colleges. So one of them is Nikolai Sokolov, who is an heir to the Bratva. He would probably become the enforcer. He's this really big guy covered in tattoos and is seen as kind of unhinged. He will sometimes go into these manic, like raged episodes, and he is cognizant of it, but still, once he's in them, it's very hard for him to come out of them. And he hates wearing clothes. He just loves going around shirtless 24/7. And then there's Brandon, who is pretty much his opposite. Brandon is very prim, proper, always put together. Some might say he exhibits some signs of like OCD, and unfortunately he harbors a lot of self-loathing that he's trying to deal with. And one day Nikolai just ends up seeing Brandon and immediately is like, man, that guy is attractive, I want to mess with him. And then Nikolai really starts to take an interest in Brandon, and Brandon keeps rejecting Nikolai, and because Nikolai is just not used to rejection and is so used to being able to be pushy, really starts to get under Brandon's skin, and it's their romance, and it's how Nikolai is really able to be there for Brandon and give Brandon a safe place to just confront all of his feelings, and oh my gosh, I love them so much. So Nikolai, I just love that he looks so scary and intimidating on the outside and everyone is so afraid of him. But when he's with Brandon, he is like this cute, adorable guy that just absolutely worships the man he loves. And I love their romance so, so much. So of course I had to have Nikolai on this list. And at number 4, I have Hawke from Blood and Ash. Now, I will say this was a really hard toss-up between Hawke and then Nyktos, but I will explain my reasoning. Nyktos is from the prequel companion series, the Flesh and Fire series by Jennifer L. Armentrout, that should be read in publication order with the From Blood and Ash series. I know it's really confusing. If you have any questions, ask them down in the comments below, and I will try to explain the reading order for this series, but it should be read in publication order. Either way, if you're unfamiliar with From Blood and Ash, we are following Poppy, who has been raised in isolation as the maiden, only being able to talk to her personal guard and a few select staff members. And she is getting ready for her ascension, which is some sort of ritual. And all we know is that Poppy is going to be very important for this mysterious ritual that she is slowly waiting to come of age to participate in. Now, one day, Poppy wants to go out and experience life, so she dresses up in disguise, because once again, no one is able to talk to the maiden. And she goes to the Red Pearl, which is a bar. She starts to have a little fun, and she ends up having an intimate moment with Hawke, who is the newest member of the Rise Guard. Now, Hawke does not recognize Poppy because she is in disguise, and she is able to leave without being recognized. But the next day, she finds out that Hawke will be her new personal guard, and it is Hawke and Poppy's romance. And I love Hawke. Also, this series has a little bit of everything. We have vampires, werewolves. The action in this is so, so good. And the romance, I love the romance, the banter. I love Jennifer L. Armentrout's writing. I know it's not for everyone, but she just makes it so accessible and just really, really fun. Now, I will say, I love Hawke for this particular book and the second book. In the third book, his personality starts to shift a little bit, and by the fourth book, I could care less about Hawke. I feel like his personality really, really took a dip as the series progressed, which is why I've kind of stalled with this series. I am not caught up on this series or the prequel series. I think I have 2 books I need to read in this series and then 1 book in the prequel series to be officially caught up. But I really, really loved Hawke in the first few books. I just feel like he was so assertive. He's ripping spines out of people's bodies and hearts out of chests. He definitely has the whole touch her and you die vibe. And I loved that about him, which is why it was such a disappointment for him to really lose that as the series progressed. But overall, I'm really hoping that by the end of the series, we get the old Hawke back and he's back to being his super strong and like has that swagger and confidence again. But overall, love this series, and if you haven't read it yet, it is definitely worth picking up. Before I share my top 3 bookish boyfriends, I want to give a shout out to Novel Wicks. So if you're unfamiliar with Novel Wicks, they are a bookish candle company, and all of their candles are wood wick, so they make a very nice crackling sound as you're burning them, and they're also topped with gorgeous glitter. Now, in March, they actually have Maas March, where all of the candles are Sarah J. Maas themed, so you can get candles that feature art from A Court of Thorns and Roses, Throne of Glass, and even Crescent City. All of the candles smell absolutely amazing. She also has wax melts and even some smaller tins. So definitely check her out, shop small, and you can use my code HF10 to save 10%. And that brings us to my top 3 book boyfriends. So at number 3, we have Ruhn, Crown Prince of the Valbarn Fae. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you know that Crescent City is actually my least favorite series by SJM. Now, I will say the first book, House of Earth and Blood, specifically the second half of the first book, might be the best writing I've ever read from SJM. That entire ending just evokes such emotion and honestly might be one of my favorite books she has written. But then books 2 and books 3 were just such a letdown for me. Personally, I am sorry if it's your favorite. I know a lot of people really enjoyed specifically this last book. But personally for me, I just didn't love the change in tone, and I wasn't connected to any of the characters really, besides Ruhn, Crown Prince of the Valbarn Fae. The guy has a lip piercing, wears leather, has a killer sword, a kind of a bad attitude, but also really loves his family and cares about his family and his friends. And he is just like the perfect like Fae guy. If you were to draw him up, every single fan art I have seen of him, I am obsessed. So I love Ruhn, even though he is a little bit of a bro in the first 2 books, but then I would say by the third, he kind of grows out of it. But I love Ruhn so, so much. And he had a viral TikTok sound. Like, what is not to like about him? So that is why he is number 3. Coming in at number 2, we have Draco from Love in a Time of a Zombie Apocalypse. Now, I originally was going to have Draco from Manacled on this list. However, if you have read Manacled, you know that Draco is intense. Now, I love a really good unhinged hero, but that Draco in particular realistically would probably terrify me with his like level of obsession. So then I thought of the Draco in Zombie Apocalypse, and while he still has all of those like key features and still feels very Draco, he's not quite as intense as Manacled Draco. Now, if you're new to Love in a Time of a Zombie Apocalypse, it is a very long fanfic that you can find on AO3. I personally absolutely loved it, and it's right up there with Manacled With Me. So it's essentially a not really similar story, but we have the human and wizarding world kind of war going on, but with the extra element of there's also a zombie apocalypse happening at the same time. So while the humans have to fight off the wizards, they also have to fight off zombies, and same thing, the wizards have to try to take control of the humans, also while zombies are trying to murder all of them. So overall, I loved it because I love kind of that horror element mixed with the whole Harry Potter universe, and it was a very enjoyable read. So if you enjoyed Manacled and you're looking for another fanfic to pick up, highly, highly recommend Love in a Time of a Zombie Apocalypse. And to absolutely no one's surprise, my ultimate book boyfriend is Rhysand from A Court of Mist and Fury. Honestly, all of the characters in this are perfection. I would give anything to live in Valaris and be friends with the inner circle, and specifically Rhysand. He is unmatched. Just the sacrifices he is willing to make for the ones he cares about and loves. And I remember when I first read this series, I finished Akavor, the third book, at 4 a.m., and immediately went back and just re-binged the entire series. I couldn't get enough. I couldn't stop thinking about these characters, and it still feels that way to this day. I just absolutely love Rhysand. But if you have not read the series, we are following Farah, and Farah is a human girl that is living on the border of the Fae and human lands. One day, she is out hunting to try to provide food for her family that are very impoverished, and she mistakenly kills a wolf, she mistakenly kills a fae, thinking that it is a wolf. And because of this, she is forced to then become the prisoner of the High Lord of the Spring Court. So the first book is a bit of a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, but as it progresses, it becomes one of the most epic stories and one of the most beautiful romances I have ever read. So please, if you have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses, do yourself a favor. There is a reason why it is such a hyped series. I know some people aren't huge fans, and a lot of people are always talking about it, but there is a reason for it. I love this series so, so much. So please, please pick it up if you haven't yet. All right, guys, those are my top 10 favorite book boyfriends. Please let me know down in the comments below, who is your ultimate bookish boyfriend? And I'd like to say a special thank you to my Paladin protectors, the Sarah Andrea family, Kat, Kylie, Leslie, Lotta, Amanda, and Jess. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week.